Hi, everybody. Today we're going to focus on a very special part of the Young Living Convention. It has to do with Gary Young's secret recipe for success. And Don Wetton presented this, and I've kind of enhanced it with a few other things that I thought were important. So let's get started. John Wetton is head of Young Living Legacy. That means he is responsible for reviewing and digitizing all of the recordings and events where Gary Young spoke, all the written materials about Gary Young. So he spent some time in 2023 coming up with what he thought were the most important aspects or ingredients for Gary's recipe for success. And he went through those at that convention. He's showing up with commitment and discipline, giving yourself an unreasonable deadline, telling everyone what you're going to do. And then that will help your dream team emerge. And then also remembering it's a journey, not a destination, and to just remember good enough is good enough. So, the thing about that, just to review for those of you who didn't get to attend that convention or hear this presentation, one of the things is why is it so important to set an unreasonable deadline? And the reason is, as John explains it, is that if you work quickly, the cost of doing something is much lower. And in your mind, you're more inclined to do it again if you do it quickly. In other words, time is money in a way, and time is energy. So he explains that when you activate energy to start a task, that's part of it. It takes willpower to start that task. And if in your mind, when you're trying to start a task, you picture it as being difficult or it took a long time, or if it's something you don't want to do again, you're not going to be as inclined to do it. So slowness in doing something has a certain effect on us that makes us not want to repeat the task. But if we do it quickly, even if it's not perfect, we will be more likely to finish something and get it out there for people to experience. Okay? So that's what John did. John set himself an unreasonable deadline in 2023 because 2 weeks before the convention, he decided he was going to learn to play the ukulele. And he didn't know how at all. He had never played the instrument before. And he decided to do this really famous song. I think it's called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And so he practiced every day. He told everybody at Young Living they thought he was kind of nuts for doing this. And so he went ahead and he told everybody. And out of that arose a woman, part of his dream team arose because knew how to play the ukulele and she was from Hawaii. So she especially knew this song. So she helped him get better at playing the ukulele, taught him some tricks. And I think it was Mary Young, but I'm not sure, who kind of gave him some tips for singing because he was going to sing on stage in front of a lot of people. And he wasn't an accomplished singer. And he's actually kind of an introvert. He's pretty shy. And he was going to be sitting on stage. So this unreasonable deadline that had to happen really quickly allowed him to not get too caught up in the details or any fears he might have about doing it. He just continued focusing on accomplishing the task. And that's where this idea for me, good enough is good enough. That's what Gary taught him because John was a perfectionist when he first started hanging out and working with Gary Young. And over time, he started to realize that it was more important to get something done than to have it be perfect. And that was Gary's philosophy. That's how he accomplished so much for so many years in Young Living and really fulfilled his mission of changing the world one person at a time with essential oils. So, to this recipe that he created in 2023, John Wetton decided he needed to add a fifth element, and that was mindset. So he kind of added that with it's a journey, not a destination, because this mindset of experiencing and enjoying the journey is really important, and not getting caught in the details is part of this good enough is good enough. And after he performed in 2023, he actually made a private YouTube channel where he said, I'm going to learn a new song every day for a year and see what that does for me. So he did that and he just shared it with a few of his friends and his family. But every time he would practice a song in the evening before he went to sleep and learn a new song, at the very end of it on the recording, he would say, "Good enough is good enough." And from repeating that over and over again every day for a year, it really shifted him and the way he saw things and how to accomplish things. One of the things he did is he read this book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And in there is an interesting comparison between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset avoids challenge, where a growth mindset views challenge as opportunity. A fixed mindset views criticism and feedback as embarrassing, where a growth mindset embraces constructive feedback and loves it, doesn't feel bad about it at all. And a fixed mindset focuses on improving themselves, like trying to prove that they're worth something, whereas a growth mindset focuses on processes, not the end result. They enjoy the process of growing in accomplishing something. And a fixed mindset is threatened by other success, where a growth mindset is inspired by other people's success. Fixed mindset can't accept failure or mistakes, where a growth mindset embraces failure and mistakes and sees them as a natural part of growth. And it doesn't mind making mistakes or having failure at all. And a fixed mindset avoids unfamiliar things, whereas a growth mindset loves to step out of their comfort zone and accomplish things. So that was the difference between Gary and people who can't achieve the kind of things he did. And now, the other thing from Gary's archives that John found is this statement by him. He said, "If I can change how I see myself, then I can change my beliefs, and then I can change my attitude, and that will change my behavior, and that will change my destiny." So, those are the steps. First, you change how you see yourself, and you change your beliefs. We do have an oil called belief, and we have so many great oils to help us in this process, and that's one of them. So this is an important thing to understand. The other thing is to change your mindset. Gary taught us that you have to choose a new direction. Do something new you've never done before. You may not even know anything about it. I mean, he built buildings with clay bricks. He didn't know how to make a clay brick. He just kept on it until he figured it out and found somebody who would teach him how to do it and where he could get the equipment. Then also staying positive no matter what, not being stopped by challenges that come up along the way. And you just have that courage. You just keep taking action no matter what happens. And this is very important. And I have lived this in my life. Act even when you're afraid to do something. I spent 10 years being really afraid to public speak or teach a class. I was always worried I'd forget in the middle of what I was doing, what I wanted to say next, and I would get off track. So many people act, even when they doubt something, they're worried about something, you just act anyway. That's the key. And also, willpower is really important because if you have the willpower to keep going, even when you've had mistakes or failures or fear or doubt or worry, you just keep going and follow through. And my guideline is that I believe that I should always accomplish 1 to 3 things every day. And then at the end of the year, I've accomplished over 300 things. Or if I do 3 things in a day, we're talking about 900 new things I've done in a year. That's a lot. So you don't have to do everything on your list, but you always have to check off at least one thing each day, no matter what's going on. And one of the things I did to change myself was when I got a divorce, I found that doing something new with my body to move myself through the divorce because I had left my son with my ex-husband in Australia and I had come back to the United States with my daughters. And I was really missing my son. And so dancing was good medicine for me. It would get me out of my head, out of my emotions, and just let me go out and have fun and move my body. And that was really a good thing to do. The other thing I did is I took a course and I took this course because I had spent a lot of time working in Ecuador and Colombia, and I really wanted to understand the indigenous philosophies of the Andes And this course was a great way to do it because it was based on the teachings of the Incan people in the Andes. And so it was called The Shaman's Way, and it was about dreaming the world into being by co-creating with the divine. That's what we're talking about Gary doing. And that's what we teach people really in Young Living. We teach people how to change their body, their emotions, their mind, and their spirit. And in this tradition, they associated each of those things with a certain direction and also with a certain animal. And so it was an interesting course. The biggest thing I learned about this course was that there's many realities you can dream into existence. One of those realities you're used to living in. It's where you came from. It's what you're used to doing. And that maybe is 95% of your energy going down that pathway. But if you choose a new pathway, there's only maybe 1% or 5% of your energy that's used to going in that direction. It takes a lot more repetition and focus to make that become your reality and let this other one kind of grow some weeds on it so you're not following that path. And that's why doing something new and building a new neural pathway is really valuable. John Wetton kind of really reconfirmed that with what he shared during this convention because he talked about, he didn't use the word neuroplasticity, but it's what it's called in science, is this brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural pathways, especially in response to learning a new experience or after a brain injury or trauma that you've had, whether it's a physical injury or emotional one. This is a good way to do it. You do something brand new and build a new pathway and find your new joy and your new passion in doing so. So he wrote this book, Deep Work, which talked about this new science of neuroplasticity, and it agreed that you get better at a skill as you develop more myelin sheath around the relevant neurons. That was something that was new to me, and I loved hearing about that through John Wetton, allowing the corresponding circuit to fire more effectively and effortlessly when you've built more myelin around the nerve ending. To be great at something is to be well myelinated. The more you focus on a specific skill, the relevant neuron circuits fire again and again, causing more myelin to thicken around the nerve pathway. So in your nerves, this is one nerve cell. And you see how there's the center of the cell, and then there's this nerve ending that goes out to these different synaptic terminals that go out to different other nerve endings and stuff. And this is like, you think of it like an electrical wire. There's a wire in the middle that has the electrical impulse, and then there's usually plastic wrapped around it to protect that energy and keep it in that pathway, right? And that's what we want to do, is strengthen that myelin sheath, that thicken that, so that these nerve endings work better in the way that we want them to. This is really, really significant to understand that, because if you have something that's damaging your myelin sheath, it slows or stops electrical impulses in that part of your body. There are signs of that I can share with you if you guys want. I didn't include it in this though, in this talk. What I do want to do is talk a little bit about what products we have in Young Living besides all the essential oils we have, like peppermint, helichrysum, juniper, that are known to build good nerves. And also Panaway contains peppermint and helichrysum, as well as wintergreen and clove, and that's a really good way to repair nerve endings also. Use is any combination of those that you want. So we have building blocks, nutritional building blocks, particularly as you get older, but even if you've had an injury or you really want to work on building this new myelin sheath, you can use some of these products. One of them is sulfurzyme. This product is very important for in today's world with all the petrochemicals and neurotoxins we have that can really affect us, and also emotional toxins that can affect us. Sulfurzyme will protect your myelin sheath so it won't break down. Also, Master Formula is really good at giving you all the nutrients that you need, like vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin K, and all the B vitamins you need. They're all in this formula. I like to also include Ninja Red because it is an adaptogen that amplifies the benefits of everything you're taking with it. So that's also important. Now, if you want to build new myelin sheath and not just protect what you have, I would also encourage you to consider PD 80-20. That's 80% pregnenolone, 20% DHEA, because pregnenolone is one of the things that actually builds myelin sheath. And when I talked to Peter Minke about this, Dr. Peter Minke, he has a PhD in cellular biology. Anyway, he was saying that none of these things are going to work if you're really stressed out and you have a lot of cortisol running through your body. So he suggested using Femigen to balance that. We also have Cortistop, but he suggested Femigen. So we'll talk more about that with him when we have him in our next class, okay? Now, I want to just show you this is an interesting thing because this is my experience. A recent survey last year when they featured this product is that Master Formula, when taken for a year, people reported higher energy levels, alertness, and immune system support. I'm going to say from my experience, if I take this product within 3 days, I feel better. It's dramatic, the difference in how I feel when I take this product. And so I have, after taking it every day for a week or two, I will usually go down to take it just 3 times a week or sometimes even 2 times a week because that way we stretch it out a little longer. And on the opposite days, I can take targeted nutrition for my eyes, my bone density, my muscle strength, and shoulder injuries and things that I've had. So I can't take all those at once. So I alternating one day one thing, another day another thing. So this is a product I take at least 3 times a week. If I'm feeling extra tired, then I amp it up. I take it every day for a while until I feel like I've kind of saturated my body with all these nutrients. If you notice, there's a ton of B vitamins in here. That's the middle column. It's really high in B vitamins. There's also magnesium, which we need for our nerves. And there's lots of minerals in here, which we definitely need. And then over here on the liquid capsule that we have, we've got vitamin D3, E, K, and a proprietary formula as well, which I'm not quite sure what's in that. It might be essential oils. I think I might have cut that part off. Okay. And so I encourage you to consider taking some of those nutrients to really help build that myelin sheath when you want to make a big change in your life. I have been doing this now for a couple of years, and it doesn't happen overnight. You make a little progress, you take a break. You make a little progress, you take a break. You try something new. One of the oils that I have just recently really been enjoying is this oil, Ignite Your Journey. This was the oil, featured oil from convention of 2023. Actually, this recipe was written by Gary in 1992. It has juniper, peppermint, cardamom, frankincense, lemongrass, basil, ginger, and cinnamon. This is a really great oil for taking action and moving beyond any limiting things you have going on that are holding you back. I'm diffusing it as we're doing this recording right now. So that's kind of fun to know that it's inspiring me as we talk. I also like to apply this on the bottom of my feet or in my belly button. I often put oils in my belly button because the nerve endings from there go out to your entire physiology. So that's wonderful. The other thing you can do is put this oil in a roll-on like this, either with a little carrier oil or just straight, because it's so much easier to use. And if you're a woman, it's really easy to stick it in your pocket, or a man, and then you can also put it on more easily if it's in your purse or your pocket when you're out and about. Sometimes I'll just keep a roll-on like this in my car too, so I've got it when I'm out. This is a good one for action, okay? So I'm going to share with you next some of the things that Gary Young says about this oil, Ignite Your Journey. He calls it this success in a bottle. That's just what we're talking about. Gary's recipe for success. So, success in a bottle. And if you think you can't do something, or it's going to be it's a challenging thing you're going to do, then this oil is going to instill in you that energy that you can do it, you will do it, and you do it. You accomplish your goals, okay? And it might not be a goal. It might be just a shift in the way you live your life. It doesn't have to be a goal. It's just how you enjoy life more. Maybe it's about enjoying life or thinking more positively. It can be anything like that. And this oil, Ignite Your Journey, is also good for meditation because it's instilling you that energy of I am and I can. Those are two important statements in conscious language that is often encouraged. I am this, or I can do something. That's really important to start your sentences with those two beginnings. And another thing you can think about is if you are the kind of person that's shy or not confident or you don't really feel like you're capable of being a leader, this is a good oil to use because this oil will give you that confidence and energy to move forward and do the things you want to do in your life. Okay. So, besides having a mindset that moves you forward in a positive direction with something you want to do, hopefully something new that you're challenging yourself with, maybe it's even just the way you relate to people or uh, talk to people. It could be something simple, or it could be something where you're actually accomplishing some goal, like I'm going to earn more money in Young Living, or I'm going to talk to three people every week about Young Living, or whatever it is. Anyway, the other aspect of it, as you're moving forward, you're going to see sometimes that something's holding you back. Sometimes you're aware of what it is, and sometimes you're not aware of what it is. And Gary always has said you have to connect with your past if you want to know why you are who you are, because we have these patterns that we affect us from either our family that we grew up in, or our genetics that we inherited from our grandparents or ancestors or our parents, or even just our environment we grew up in, or the school we went to, anything like that that forms you is important to see what that is. So Gary loved to go out into the wilderness. He had a place that he liked to go camping called Warm Springs, and he would hike in there with his horses, not hike in, but he would pack in with these horses that would carry everything he needed, and they'd go in there, and it was quite far in, remote, from no roads or anything like that. And he would, you can see he had all the things he needed to work, spend time there alone. He didn't have anybody with him. And this is a really good way to really get in touch with who you are and what you need to change. So I'm going to read to you the recording that he did, they played at convention from Gary about this. I hope you take a moment and you find a place to get away and get in touch. You can't do it in a busy life or in a busy city. You'll discover things when you get away about yourself that you never knew. Some may be good, hopefully most of them, but some of them may be bad or difficult for you to handle. Those are the ones that you want to discover, and those are the ones that you want to figure out how you're going to change them. And until you do that, you'll spend most of your time pondering and worrying about past hangups, and and also all the genetic programming you have, like I've mentioned, that's engraved in your DNA and in your body that paralyzes you from really moving forward. It's a baggage that you carry. Often you feel like it's a backpack on your back you're carrying, right? And you can't go forward and you wonder why you can't be successful. I will say this concept of shifting what's on your back is really important. Your past is in your back, your future's in your front. That's why Gary Young's raindrop technique is so amazing and so powerful, because it focuses on the back and putting oils on your spine. And that helps you let go of your past. That's one thing you can do to help you shift any past patterns that you have. The other thing is we have the abundance technique card deck that Gary actually inspired me to do. At the time of his passing, I did that and I felt really connected to him. I went to France, where his first farm was. I spent time with Nicolas Sandel at the lavender harvest in July of that year, 2018. And then I went to St. Baum and I spent time there because I really wanted to connect with the energies of Gary and this place that's very profound for me. And I wrote all of the emotional, mental, and spiritual explanations for all of the oils while I was there that year. And when we were doing that, we had a real clear connection with Gary. I just felt very strongly that he was very happy at what I was doing and that it was really needed in the world, and that he was really helping guide me in doing that whole project. Gary talked about in this short little video that you can create your own success. You deserve to be successful, and you can create it no matter where you live, and you create it whatever you want with your mind, just like he did here. He said, I can spend my time camping, creating peace and serenity and joy, or I can drive myself crazy, letting my mind race and worry about anxiety and wonder why I'm doing the things I'm doing or what haunts me from my past. And then he wouldn't stay there a minute. So that brings us to this point of this deep emotional healing work that we need to do. So I want to talk a little bit about the basics of anatomy of an emotion. I took this from an old class I did years ago because it's really important. We have memory. When we do something that's traumatic, there's a memory, and then energetically, we link that up with an emotion. And every time, if you find yourself angry for no reason a lot or irrationally, it doesn't have anything really to do with the moment, or sad or grieving, all of those things are linked up. Candace Pert taught us, she was a researcher. She wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion, and she taught us that this is really actually physiologically what happens. When you have something happen, there's a memory that gets stored somewhere in your body, and there's a biochemical component to it. Usually, things related to anger are stored in the liver. Things related to sadness are stored in the pancreas. Things related to grief are stored in the lungs. What we want to do is stop this feedback loop. If you ever have that problem that when you go to sleep at night, you just keep having these memories that just don't stop. Same thing keeps going over and over again in a cycle, and you don't know how to get out of it. That's the blessing of essential oils, because essential oils can help us break that energy link between the memory and the negative emotion that we want to stop feeling. And we have several ways we can do that. We want to shift these neural pathways, and we use that through essential oils in inhalation. That's one way. And the other way is we're applying them on our body. You're doing these two things, remember. You're doing the releasing of the old, and you're doing the opening up of the new. So the opening up of the new for me was last October. I went to St. Baum to spend a month there and just focus in this place where Mary Magdalene, that I have a deep connection with, spent the last 30 years of her life. And then I meditated, I spent time in nature, I connected with all kinds of things there and had a really powerful experience that I came home and turned into the rose meditation that we do every week on Fridays. If you go to my website, aromaclasses.com, you'll see it on the main page that says join our weekly rose healing meditation, and it will teach you how to do that. Okay. Then the other thing Gary teaches us is looking at our past, right? So that's something I also did on this trip. Toward the end of the trip, I was going to spend a week at the beach, and I thought, well, what am I going to do at the beach for a week? I'm not with anybody else, I'm by myself. So I sat in this church in Rennes-le-Château, which was near an area of southern France in the Languedoc where the tradition is that the Essenes from Israel also lived in this area of France during the time of Jesus. So I went to this church that's dedicated to Mary Magdalene, and it's built with sacred geometry. And that means that it has a special energy that makes it easier for you to connect with the divine, or just, I like to call it the other side. When I ask a question or meditate in a church like this or pray, I usually get a very clear answer. And I asked, what should I spend my week doing when I'm at the beach? And I got really clearly that I should do a timeline of my life and just make a timeline of everything that happened. And that's a pretty long timeline when you're 74. So I spent the week doing that. I did write everything out. And when I got to the time period around my 50s, I found that it was felt painful, and I knew that I needed to do some work about that. So I spent time really starting to work with my oils. I luckily the feelings kit, other oils, and I worked on writing my thoughts and sitting on this bench with my oils and processing the emotions. Luckily, I had the blessing of looking out over the beach while I was doing it and meditating. The most important thing when you're processing an emotion is when you're releasing an emotion, you don't want to think about the memory, even if it pops in your head, or the emotion that might come up in your heart or your body. You focus on what is the physical sensation I'm feeling in my body. You always go to that, even if your mind flips back to your memory or your emotion. Every time you become aware of it, you just go back to what's going on in my body. And if you do that, you will release the emotion because the oil applied, smelled, and applied wherever you feel, if you can't go wrong from putting it on your liver or your heart, because those areas can always use healing, or even in your navel, because that area connects to your whole body, but just whatever you feel to do. And then when you do that, you just will have many layers sometimes to an emotion. It may not go away completely, but it will get less intense as time goes on. And you just keep doing that. So I spent the week in France at the beach doing this healing work. And toward the end of the week, I saw this beautiful image when I walked out to the beach one day. It was almost like an angel. It felt like angel wings with the light shining through, just as a message like, yeah, you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing. And so I really was touched by that and enjoyed that. So these are the oils that John recommended: present time, forgiveness, inner child and valor, and acceptance. I like to point out acceptance because that's an important oil. Some things you can change in your life. If you've ever heard of the serenity prayer that they say in Al-Anon, which is families of alcoholic people, or AA, which is for Alcoholics Anonymous, they say a prayer called the Serenity Prayer, which said, God grant me the strength to change the things I can change, the ability to accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So acceptance is really important because one of the things that we do often is we project out our stuff to other people and think, well, if they would just stop doing this, or if they'd quit acting like that or responding that way, I would be better. But that's not the way it works. You have to change from within. And acceptance is a really great oil to use in that process. So I like that he added that in. These other four oils are also part of the Young Living Feelings Kit, which is for releasing the kind of feelings we're talking about. So I used this that week that I was at the beach. I was using these oils, and there's a little process that we have written out about how to use these in what order. The important thing is you can also add acceptance to this. So I use this to release things and shift my energy, but I also used this kit, the Divine Destiny Collection, which I have created my own version of a meditation for this kit, which has a lot of positive intentions and takes me down those new neural pathways that I want to build and make stronger. This is the kit I use for that. I think that it would be great for me to spend some time with all of you doing these two processes. I wish I could get you all here in person because I want to do these with you in person, but we can do them through Zoom if that's our only option. So this is something that really reverberates with me as an important thing that came out at convention, this proverb from Greece: a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. So you plant seeds, you plant things now that grow, but you won't see them come to fruition for other generations. We should all have this attitude. That's what Gary did. Look how the seeds he planted that we're still experiencing, that I'm sure he could see from the other side, but he's not here to experience in person. And the same thing, I have the intention that we will all experience the same thing. All the blessings we're giving to the world through the work we do, the oils we use on ourselves, the oils we share with others, and the attitudes we change: body, emotions, mind, and spirit, in all four of those realms that we all live in. Gary was about asking the question, how do I help people be their natural best self? I love that statement. How do I help people be their natural best self? I've lived my life with that intention in Young Living. I really believe it gives me a lot of fulfillment. And I think you're going to find, you know this from your own personal experience. When you think about helping others, you're blessed naturally in the process of doing that. And you receive miracles and gifts from doing that, just sharing that blessing with others and helping others. So this living legacy is what Young Living is all about. It's about the legacy of our past that we have from Gary Young and all that he gave us, our present legacy that we're building as every day that we share oils and work with Young Living, and the future we're bringing to ourselves and others. So I would like to end just thinking about that, and what that legacy is in terms of our purpose is that we are farmers and families. We're creators, creating our own reality, fulfilling our own recipe for success. We're distillers making amazing oils for the world. And we're dreamers, dreaming our reality into existence. And we harness the power of nature's living energy to enrich humanity. So I'll leave you with that, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Have a wonderful day.